For centuries, the galaxy was alive with voices, but Earth stayed silent. Aliens called, sent signals, even landed probes, yet no reply came. Humanity listened, learned, and waited. The silence became mystery, the mystery became fear. No one knew why humans stayed quiet, until the day the long wait ended. The galaxy was loud with many voices. Empires traded, fought, and bragged about their power. Yet in all that noise, one name was missing: humans. Long ago, humans had crossed the stars. Their ships had traveled far. Their colonies had grown on strange worlds. But then, war and silence swallowed them. Records broke, maps changed hands, stories twisted. In time, the word human became only a legend told to children at night. Humans were giants, some said. Humans were demons, others answered. Most shrugged. Humans were never real, but legends often start from truth. Deep below a ruined moon, far from busy trade lanes, a hidden city glowed. It was carved into ancient rock, warmed by quiet reactors, lit by soft blue panels. Here lived the last children of Earth. They were not many, but they were stubborn. They had a rule: we do not fail. We do not forget. The city's heart was a long hall filled with banners and names. Each banner carried an image of a blue world with white swirls. Each name belonged to a ship that once sailed the stars. Some banners were torn. Some were stained with age. All were honored. Elder Soraya walked the hall with slow steps. Her hair was white. Her eyes were sharp. She stopped by a banner marked Archer's Hope and touched the cloth with care. A small group of young cadets followed her, boots clicking on metal floors. "You will hear many things about us," Soraya said, voice calm and steady. "Some will call us myths. Some will call us monsters. We are neither. We are human. We stand. We fall. We rise again." A hand went up. It belonged to Jin, a quick-eyed pilot trainee with grease on his sleeves. "Elder, if we are real, why does no one remember us?" "They remember," Soraya replied. "They pretend not to. It is easier to rule a galaxy without old debts and old ghosts. But ghosts come back when the door is opened." "What opens the door?" asked Mara, a quiet engineer with a steady gaze. Soraya looked up toward the rock ceiling, toward the hidden sky. "A signal, a flag, a ship that does not bow." They reached a round chamber where a tall window showed a slice of black space. Stars were small and cold. The city's shield shimmered like thin ice. On a raised platform stood Commander Rafe, a broad-shouldered man with a scar across his chin. He wore simple gray armor, polished but practical. Beside him rested a flight helmet with a blue circle on it, the emblem of Earth. "Cadets," Rafe said, nodding. "Today you will see something no one in this galaxy expects." He gestured, and the floor opened to reveal a hangar cut into the stone. Rows of ships waited there, sleeping beasts of steel and ceramic. Their hulls were matte and clean. Their names were stenciled in white: Archer's Hope, Fern, Waking Tide, Homebound. The largest ship, a long, lean spear of a vessel, bore a single word on its side. Earth, a low murmur moved through the cadets. Mara whispered, "We finished the jump core?" "We finished enough," Rafe answered. "Enough to step into the dark without losing our way." Jin swallowed hard. "Commander, when we launch, will anyone hear us?" Rafe's mouth curved into a small, tired smile. "Everyone?" The lights dimmed. A soft chime echoed through the chamber. Soraya stood a little taller. "The time is now. The window opens." "Window?" Jin asked. "The gap between patrols," Mara said. "The moment when the outer sensors sleep." "Exactly," Rafe replied. He tapped a control on his wrist. The hangar woke. Engines purred, guidance lights flickered, robotic arms slid back. "Crew to stations." The cadets broke to their assignments. Jin sprinted for Archer's Hope. Mara ran for the power bay. Soraya and Rafe stayed on the platform, watching with quiet pride. "Do you fear this day?" Rafe asked. Soraya's eyes stayed on the ships. "I have feared every day we hid. I will not fear the day we stand." The first ship lifted. Dust swirled. Then the second rose, then the third. The hangar's roof opened in petals of black metal. A tunnel of darkness yawned above, leading to the thin light of stars. Rafe touched his helmet. "This is Commander Rafe to all wings. For generations we trained in shadows. Today we fly. Remember who you are. Remember where you come from. You carry our name." A chorus of voices answered, some young, some old. "We carry Earth." Outside, the hidden city dimmed its lights. The shield field parted like a curtain. One by one, the ships slid into space, small against the vastness, but steady. Their engines left faint trails, lines of pale blue across the black. "Begin the signal," Soraya said. In a tight room of consoles, operators tapped out a pattern. It was simple at first. Prime numbers, a calm heartbeat of thinking minds. Then a symbol, a circle with swirls, the old sign of Earth. Then words in a dozen tongues, some dead, some living. The human fleet moved out from the shadow of the moon. Engines glowed blue and the ships flew in a steady line. The first jump had worked. The cadets looked at their screens with wide eyes. The stars were new, but the mission was clear. They were here to announce that Earth was real. A signal came through the comms. It was strange and broken, but it carried meaning. The source was unknown from the edge of the system. The words were simple and cold. "Identify." The humans answered with a single word. "Earth." The reply came fast. The aliens said that humans were only a myth. The humans sent another line. "Myth stand again." The second message was more direct. "Leave this system. It is not yours." The humans refused. They sent their own signal. "This system belongs to Earth." Energy built on the edge of the system. Alien weapons were charging. Human shields came online. The first missiles flew across the black. Blue shields flared as the fleet shook from the impact. Systems held, engines burned brighter. Weapons were armed. The humans returned fire. The first strike hit the alien ship. Sparks of light spread in the darkness. The enemy pulled back, but not far. It was not defeat. It was only a test. The humans knew this. They sent one more line into space. "We will not kneel." The quiet lasted only minutes. Then new signals appeared. More ships were coming. The engines were larger. The shadows were heavier. The test was not over. The humans held their ground. They would not retreat. They carried a new truth. Humans stand again. The alien fleet entered the system with heavy engines and bright red lights. Their ships were larger and darker than the first. The humans watched from their stations. The sky filled with shadows, and the weight of the moment pressed on every heart. But there was no thought of retreat. This was the test they had waited for. The first shots came from the alien side. Red beams cut across the black sky. They struck the shields of the human fleet, shaking the hulls and throwing sparks across the decks. The defense lines held, but the pressure grew with every strike. The sound of alarms filled the bridge of every ship. The battle had begun. The humans fired back. Blue light leapt from their cannons, sharp and steady. The beams crossed the void and cut into the alien hulls. One enemy ship cracked, its surface burning. The humans saw their first victory, but the enemy pressed forward with no pause. The fight turned fierce. Missiles burst in swarms, shields glowed and weakened, and explosions scattered across the system. Human ships moved in tight formation. They worked as one, covering each other, protecting their lines. The aliens fought with raw power, throwing their numbers into the fight. The humans answered with precision. One human ship fell, flames spinning into the dark. The crew gave their last message before silence. "Stand strong." Their sacrifice pushed the others to fight harder. Another alien vessel cracked under fire, breaking apart into pieces. The void carried both loss and triumph together. The cadets learned in seconds what years of training could not teach. Real battle had no mercy. Jin guided his ship through heavy fire, his hands shaking but steady enough to strike. Mara kept the power lines alive, refusing to let the engines fail. Asha moved the fleet in patterns that broke enemy formations. Together they turned fear into action. The aliens sent their flagship forward. It was huge, twice the size of the Earth vessel. Its cannons glowed red, ready to end the fight. The humans focused all weapons on it. Blue fire crossed in waves. The flagship answered with storms of energy. Both sides shook under the clash. Minutes felt like hours. Shields burned low. Engines screamed with stress. Then at last, the alien flagship cracked. A direct hit pierced its center. Flames spread across its frame, and then it exploded in a cloud of fire. The human fleet lit up with cheers even as they bled. The remaining alien ships pulled back. Some engines flickered. Some hulls broke. The humans did not chase. They held their ground and let the enemy retreat. The field was theirs. Proxima belonged to them now. Silence fell after the storm. Damaged ships drifted but lived. Engineers rushed to seal breaches. Medics carried the wounded. The dead were named and honored. No one forgot their sacrifice. The battle had been won, but the cost was heavy. The humans sent a final message into space. The words were short, but they carried the weight of every heart. Humans stand again. The galaxy heard. On trade worlds, merchants gasped at the news. On pirate bases, captains whispered in fear. In council halls, leaders grew silent. Myths had become real and reality had teeth. The humans were no longer shadows. They were a storm rising. Back in the hidden city, the people watched the reports. Tears and cheers filled the halls. Children painted stars on the walls. Elders bowed their heads in pride. The first battle was over, and Earth had not fallen, but no one believed the war was finished. The aliens would return. Stronger fleets would come. New empires would turn their eyes toward the blue world. The humans had stood, but now they would have to keep standing. The cadets gathered in the command hall. Their uniforms were torn, their eyes heavy, but their voices steady. They had seen death and they had survived. Elder Soraya looked at them and said the words that would echo forever. We do not vanish. We do not kneel. We stand. The humans had shown the galaxy their truth. Once myths, they were now soldiers. Once forgotten, they were now remembered. Once broken, they were now whole. The first battle had ended, but the story had only begun. The victory at Proxima spread across the stars faster than light. Every station, every market, and every council spoke the same words. Humans had returned and they had won. The news carried shock, fear, and disbelief. The galaxy that once called humans myths now saw them as real. On the home world of the Drax, rage filled the Great War Hall. Their leader slammed his fist against stone and fire. 30 ships had gone to crush the humans, and most had not returned. Pride was broken, and anger burned hotter than steel. Generals shouted for revenge. They demanded larger fleets and louder war drums. The humans, they said, must be erased before their legend grew stronger. On the world of the Vire, the crystal chamber glowed with cold light. Elders sat in silence as reports scrolled before them. Some laughed, calling it luck. Others frowned, sensing danger. One elder said that sparks could be crushed, but another whispered that sparks could grow into fire. Relvad, the gray scientist, warned them. He said that humans were not luck, they were survivors, and survivors always learned to win. In the trade stations, merchants spoke with nervous voices. Pirates muttered in hidden corners. Some feared humans, others saw new profit, and a few swore never to cross them. For the first time in centuries, the name of Earth carried weight again. Back in the Proxima system, the human fleet worked day and night. Ships were patched. Shields were rebuilt. Stations rose from asteroids like teeth. Beacons flashed the claim. This system belongs to Earth. Every pulse carried a warning to the galaxy. The humans would not hide again. Inside the flagship, Commander Rafe studied the map of stars. His face was calm, but his thoughts were heavy. Asha stood beside him, her eyes sharp. She asked if the galaxy would accept their return. Rafe shook his head. Acceptance would not come, but respect would. That was enough. In the underground city, Elder Soraya spoke to the people. Her voice was strong even in her old age. She told them that the world had heard their name again. Some would laugh, some would threaten, but none could ignore them now. She reminded the people that respect was not given freely. It must be earned every day. The scouts brought troubling news. Enemy movements were seen at the edges of space. Ships without flags followed the humans from afar. Sometimes they vanished when chased. Sometimes they lingered like shadows. Rafe called them watchers. Soraya called them tests. The people knew greater storms were coming. The nomads of the spiral were the first to answer. Their ships appeared near the human lines, patched and strange, but fast and deadly. They sent a message of respect. They said that humans fought like nomads, outnumbered, outgunned, but unbroken. They offered friendship. Rafe accepted. Hands were shaken and an alliance was born. News of the alliance spread quickly. Some cheered it, others feared it, and many grew angry. The Dracs saw it as an insult. Their leader roared that humans had made allies from the scraps of the galaxy. He promised war without end. His generals prepared new fleets, but not all of them felt sure. Fear had crept into their hearts. The Veer elders watched in silence. Some still called the humans weak. Others grew thoughtful. Relvad whispered that the fire was spreading, but his warning fell on deaf ears. The elders chose to wait. They wanted the Dracs to bleed before they made their move. On Earth, the hidden city celebrated the alliance. Families cheered the sight of nomad ships flying beside human vessels. Children painted banners with stars and circles. For the first time, Earth was not alone in the void, yet Soraya remained cautious. She told Rafe that allies bring danger as well as hope. Nomads had many enemies, and their enemies would become human enemies too. Rafe accepted this. He said the path ahead was sharp, but it was the only path left. In Proxima, life began to grow. Minds opened. Stations expanded. Engineers worked with nomads to build faster engines and stronger weapons. The future was uncertain, but it was moving. The humans had stepped into the galaxy once more, and the galaxy had no choice but to notice. The forgotten ones were forgotten no more. The myth had become real, and the real had become strong. The galaxy was no longer the same. The Dracs did not forgive their loss. On their homeworld, fires burned brighter as war drums echoed across the stone halls. Their leader roared with anger, promising that the shame of Proxima would be erased. Orders were given, and fleets of black ships rose into the sky. 30 ships had fallen, but now more than 50 prepared to march. The Dracs swore that humans would not survive their storm. In the Proxima system, the humans worked without pause. Stations grew stronger. Asteroids were cut into forts. Engineers repaired damaged hulls and built new weapons with nomad help. The Alliance gave them speed, but everyone knew it was not enough. The Dracs were coming, and the fight would be harder than before. Commander Rafe stood on the bridge of the flagship. His eyes stayed on the star map, where red symbols marked the enemy fleet. He knew what was coming. Asha asked if they could win. Rafe told her they could stand. That was enough. The warning came quickly. Scouts at the edge of the system reported heavy movement. 50 ships, engines bright, weapons ready. The storm had arrived. The human fleet formed its line. Nomad ships flew beside them, patched and strange, but brave. Shields rose. Weapons glowed. Silence filled the decks as hearts beat faster. The first strike came from the Dracs. Red fire covered the black sky. Explosions burst against shields, shaking the human ships. The defense lines bent but did not break. Then the humans answered. Blue light shot from their cannons, cutting into the enemy. One Drax ship cracked and burned, but more pressed forward. The storm had no end. The battle became fire and chaos. Missiles streaked. Beams crossed. Stations exploded in bursts of light. Ships moved through smoke and wreckage. The humans fought with precision, covering each other and striking with focus. The nomads darted between the larger ships, fast and sharp, breaking enemy formations. Still, the numbers pressed down like a weight. One by one, human ships fell. Each gave their last signal before silence. Stand strong. Do not break. Their sacrifice pushed the others harder. The fleet closed ranks and fired again. Another Drax warship exploded, sending flames into the void. Both sides bled. Neither side yielded. The flagship shook under the storm. Mara's voice came through the comms, saying the power lines were at their limit. Jin kept his ship flying, weaving through missiles and fire. Asha guided formations with quick, steady commands. Together, the fleet held, even as the Drax pushed harder. At last, the great Drax flagship entered the center. It was massive, larger than any human ship, with weapons glowing bright red. Its cannons fired in heavy waves, breaking shields and scattering lines. Rafe ordered every ship to focus fire. Blue beams struck the flagship again and again. The hull cracked but did not fall. Minutes felt like hours. Engines screamed. Shields failed. Fires spread inside the decks. Still, the humans refused to yield. The nomads attacked the flagship from the sides, piercing its armor. At last, a direct hit tore through its core. The Drax flagship burned, and then it exploded into pieces. The loss shook the Drax fleet. Some ships broke formation. Some engines faltered. The humans pressed forward with all they had left. The storm began to scatter. One by one, the enemy retreated. The void grew quiet. The battle was over. The humans had survived. The cost was heavy. Many ships were gone. Many lives were lost, but the storm had not crushed them. The humans stood again. The news raced across the galaxy. Merchants whispered of impossible victory. Pirates swore never to fight Earth. Empires paused in silence. The myth had survived a storm of fire. The galaxy could no longer deny them. In the underground city, families cheered and wept together. Children painted stars on the walls. Elders spoke the names of the fallen with pride. Soraya told the people that storms would come again, but this day proved they could endure. On the flagship, Rafe looked out at the wreckage. His voice was quiet, but it carried weight. "This is not the end," he said. "The galaxy will test us again, but we will not kneel. We will not vanish. Humans stand. The forgotten were forgotten no more." The storm had broken, but Earth still stood. The Second Battle of Proxima became legend. 2 times the Drax had come with power, and 2 times they had failed. The galaxy could not ignore it. Humans were no longer whispers in old archives. They were warriors who survived storms. Their names spread to every corner of the stars. On trade worlds, merchants argued about what it meant. Some said humans would open new markets. Others feared they would destroy old routes. Pirates painted human symbols on their sails, not from loyalty, but from fear. The message was clear. Crossing humans now carried risk. In the crystal chamber of the Veer, the elders sat in silence. The defeat of the Drax had shaken them. Some still laughed, calling it luck and boldness. Others looked uneasy. Relvad, the gray scientist, spoke again. He said humans were no accident. They endured because they refused to vanish. He warned that fire was spreading, but the elders chose patience. They wanted to see how long the fire could burn. The nomads of the spiral stood firm with Earth. After fighting together, their bond grew stronger. They shared maps of hidden routes, knowledge of trade winds, and secrets of survival. In return, humans gave them tools, medicine, and the memory of Earth's green fields. The 2 sides began to act like one people, even if their ships looked different. Commander Rafe welcomed the nomad captains aboard the flagship. They spoke as equals. The nomads respected humans for their bravery. Humans respected nomads for their loyalty. Both knew that together they were stronger. Still, both also knew that unity brought enemies. Nomads had foes scattered across the stars, and now those foes would look at Earth with the same hatred. In the underground city, Elder Soraya warned the people. She said victory was not the end of danger. It was the beginning. The galaxy would test them again and again. Some tests would come with fleets, others with whispers. She told them that the greatest enemy was not fire from the sky, but forgetting who they were. Her words spread through the halls. The people repeated them like a vow. Scouts reported new shadows at the edges of human space. Unknown ships followed them, always at a distance. They never fired, but they never vanished either. Rafe said they were watching. Asha said they were waiting. Mara said they were measuring how long humans could last. Everyone agreed that greater battles were coming. Then came a message from a council of traders. It was polite but sharp. They told humans not to expand further. They said the galaxy would not allow it. The words were a warning. Rafe read the message and said humans would not ask permission. Space was not given. It was taken, and Earth would take its place. The people of Earth cheered when they heard his answer. For the first time, they felt pride without fear. Children wrote the words on the walls of their schools. We will not ask. We will stand. The underground city no longer felt like a prison. It felt like the heart of something greater. The nomads warned humans that the Dracs were not done. They would gather again. They would come with more ships, larger fleets, and endless anger. The Veer might also move soon, once they decided whether to crush or respect the fire. Rafe listened and nodded. He said Earth could not wait for the future. They had to prepare for it. New fleets began to rise from hidden hangars. Old hulls were reforged, and new names were painted on their sides. Training grew harder. Every cadet knew that another storm was coming. Some feared it. Others welcomed it. All of them accepted it. The myth was gone. The galaxy now understood the truth. Humans were real. Humans were strong. But with every victory came more enemies. The balance of power was shifting. Elder Soraya spoke one final warning to her people. She said allies were precious, but allies brought heavy chains. To stand in the galaxy meant to carry both respect and danger. She told them that storms would test not just their ships, but their spirit. If they remembered who they were, no empire could erase them again. The people believed her. The nomads believed too. Even some enemies began to believe, though they would never admit it. Across the stars, leaders whispered the same thought. The forgotten ones had returned, and they would not vanish again. The humans were no longer myths. They were a force, a storm, and a fire that could not be ignored. The galaxy had gained new allies and new enemies, but most of all, it had gained a memory reborn. The galaxy could no longer pretend. Twice the Dracs had come, and twice they had failed. The myth of humans was broken. Reality stood in its place. Ships, banners, and voices carried the name of Earth to every world. It was no longer a question of survival. It was now a question of respect. From the core of the galaxy came a summons. A council of empires would gather to decide the fate of the new fire. Earth was invited. It was both a test and a trap. If they refused, they would be called cowards. If they accepted, they would stand alone before powers older and greater. Commander Rafe and Elder Soraya agreed. They said Earth would not hide. They would speak. The fleet prepared for the long journey. The flagship Earth led with nomad allies flying close. The cadets stood ready, their eyes steady despite fear. Asha whispered that they were no longer ghosts. They were real and the galaxy would see it. Rafe told her that fear was natural, but silence was over. The council world was vast, covered in shining towers and endless halls. Ships from every race filled its orbit. Warships, trade barges, and strange relics floated together. No one could ignore the human fleet as it entered. Some stared with curiosity, others with hatred. But all watched. Inside the grand chamber, the rulers of the galaxy sat on high thrones of stone, crystal, and steel. The center circle stood empty, waiting. A voice called across the hall. Earth stepped forward. Commander Rafe walked into the light, armor plain but proud. Elder Soraya followed, her silver hair glowing under the chamber's radiance. Behind them stood Asha, carrying the symbol of Earth. Their steps were steady. The chamber grew silent. The first voice came from a Drax general. He roared that humans were insects. He said one victory meant nothing. He promised the Drax would burn Earth to ash. Rafe answered calmly. If we are insects, then why do you fear us? Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Drax general fell silent. A Veer elder spoke next. She said humans were too small for a galaxy of giants. She asked why space should make room for them. Soraya raised her chin. Space is not given, she said. Space is taken. We have taken it with blood and fire. We do not ask, we stand. The elder paused and the chamber hushed. Then Relvad, the gray scientist, rose. He looked at his own council and then at the humans. He said that the others laughed, but he did not. He said that humans were not a spark. They were fire. They had been forgotten, yet they endured. They had been tested, yet they stood. He told the chamber to respect them or fear them, but not ignore them. His words struck deep. For the first time, no one laughed. The arguments lasted for hours. Some demanded that Earth be destroyed before it grew stronger. Some called for exile to lock humans away on their world. Others whispered of alliances, seeing new power in their defiance. Voices clashed until at last the council's speaker rose. The final judgment was spoken. Earth is no longer forgotten. Earth will not be erased. They have earned a place among the stars. The words carried through the chamber like thunder. Rafe bowed his head once, not in weakness but in respect. Soraya closed her eyes, relief in her face. Asha smiled, young but proud. The humans had stood before the Council of Empires and had not broken. The news spread across the galaxy. Traders carried it to markets. Pirates whispered it in fear. Nomads sang it in their long journeys. Even the enemies of Earth repeated it. The forgotten ones were forgotten no more. On Earth, the hidden city erupted with joy. Families celebrated. Children wrote the words on walls, "We stand." The halls of stone no longer felt heavy. They felt alive. The people knew storms would come again, but storms no longer frightened them. On the flagship, Rafe stood at the observation deck. Asha asked if the galaxy would ever accept them fully. Rafe shook his head. "They did not need to accept us," he said. "They only need to remember us." Soraya's voice came over the comms. "Respect is enough for now." The fleet turned from the council world and faced the endless stars. Engines burned blue. Nomad ships flew beside them. The galaxy was wide and dangerous, but no longer empty. The myth had walked again. The fire had spread. The forgotten ones stood tall. And the stars themselves now carried a lesson that would last for ages. Once humans were only myths, stories told in whispers, written in fading records. Many believed they were gone forever. But humans did not vanish. They endured in silence. They rebuilt in hidden places. They remembered who they were. When the moment came, they rose. They fought storms of fire. They stood before the greatest empires. They spoke their name without fear. Now the galaxy remembers. Humans are not myths. They are real. They are strong. They stand again. And for all who listen across the stars, one truth remains.